Welcome back. Here's a quick recap. Raon and Dorian have finally reached their destination Haben Castle, where the vice commander warmly welcomes them. He then leads them to the main commander, who assigns them to the 3rd scouting team and allocates their room. Sometime later, while Raon and Dorian are in their room, Raiden, the leader of the 3rd scouting team, suddenly enters and announces that a mission awaits them. If you're new here or need a refresher, I highly recommend checking out the previous part before diving into this exciting chapter. Now that we're all caught up, before we start this new chapter, I could really use your help upgrading my PC. My old one is completely dead, which is why this chapter took so long to upload. I had to borrow my friend's PC to get it done. Sorry for the delay. Let's jump right in. The scene shifted to the opulent surroundings of the Sieghart Palace, where Patriarch Glenn sat in a grand, high-ceilinged hall. With a measured tone and a hint of curiosity, he addressed Limer. "So, what brings you here today?" His eyes narrowed slightly, betraying a sense of caution. Limer's face lit up with amusement as he spoke. "I heard about it, my lord. You ordered the shadow agents to investigate what Raon has been doing, to cherish your grandson so much. How unexpected." His tone was playful, with a hint of teasing, as if he found the situation intriguing or even amusing. Glenn's expression turned incredulous as he placed his hand on his head, his thoughts racing with surprise and annoyance. To himself, he thought, Ren must have told him about it. He's been whispering with that gambling addict behind my back recently. A scowl formed on his face as he pieced together the likely sequence of events. His eyes narrowed. "This is why I secretly ordered them to investigate." Limer's voice was filled with amusement as he said, "Isn't it interesting?" He bloomed and absorbed the Teuton flower that he obtained during the mission against the Snow Tiger bandits, and he even taught a lesson to the Blacker Princess, the one notorious for her haughty attitude. Glenn's expression turned stern, and he asked in a calm, measured tone, "Should you really be entertained by your disciple committing theft and causing a dispute with a princess of an allied country?" Limer's response was immediate, his voice full of joy. "Theft might be an issue, but a dispute?" Limer's voice swelled with pride as he continued, "It was the princess who picked a fight. He simply returned it fair and square." His tone was vindicated, as if he found great satisfaction in Raon's actions. He leaned in slightly, a glint in his eye. "Moreover, even the shadow agents were unable to figure out how he stole the black butterfly, which makes it entertaining to look forward to the next bit of news." Glenn's expression was firm, his voice resolute. "I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen. I already ordered the shadow agents to retreat." The Patriarch's words were like a splash of cold water, and Limer's eyes widened in shock and surprise. "What?" he asked, his voice tinged with incredulity. "But why?" His eyes locked onto Glenn's, searching for answers, as if trying to read between the lines to understand the sudden change in plans. Limer's eyes sparkled with intrigue as he continued, "Are you not curious about what Raon is going to do next?" "I heard until the part where he obtained a ghastly blade forged by Kuberad." His voice trailed off, leaving the question hanging in the air. Glenn's response was firm, his tone brooking no argument. "I only dispatched the shadow agents as a precaution to prevent unfair interference from the house. I've already ordered them to return." Limer's voice took on a teasing tone as he asked, "Ah, then you must have asked Haben Castle to send reports." The Patriarch's face suddenly drained of color, his complexion turning pale. The silence that followed was telling, and it seemed that Glenn's reaction had inadvertently confirmed Limer's suspicions. Glenn's eyes blazed with anger and frustration as he turned to Ren, his voice low and menacing. "Ren, don't tell me it was you." Ren's face contorted in panic and fear. "It really wasn't me who told him about it this time." His words tumbled out in a rush, as if he was desperate to clear his name and avoid the Patriarch's wrath. Limer's voice rang out, filled with amusement and pride. "Ha, you're blaming the wrong person. It was as clear as day that you must have messaged Haben Castle. Why won't you just call him and tell him, 'You are the best, my grandson,' instead of keeping up with that dignified act for no reason?" The room fell silent, with Ren's eyes fixed on the Patriarch in worry and fear, as if anticipating a volcanic eruption. Limer's voice continued to flow with enthusiasm. "If you do that, the misunderstanding with the annex building will be resolved, which will make you happy and also improve the relationship with Sylvia, making everyone happy." His eyes seemed to sparkle with anticipation, as if he was envisioning a perfect outcome. The Patriarch's voice was laced with anger and frustration. "It looks like my education from last time wasn't enough." Limer's expression suddenly changed, and he seemed to recall a painful memory. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke up. I had an appointment. I need to go. I'm taking my leave now." The words tumbled out quickly, and Limer's eyes darted towards the exit, as if he was desperate to escape the Patriarch's wrath. The Patriarch's aura erupted into a fiery blaze, his eyes blazing with determination as he clenched his fist. "I'll make sure to engrave the lesson into your body this time." The sound of flesh meeting flesh echoed through the room, followed by Limer's pained scream. The Sieghart household resonated with the echoes of Limer's cries, a stark contrast to the usual calm and collected atmosphere. Meanwhile, Raon's eyes widened in wonder as he looked behind him, his mind processing the faint echo of a scream. "I feel like I heard a scream just now," he thought to himself, his brow furrowed in concern. Sometimes later, Raiden's voice broke the silence as they arrived at their destination. "This is Stalin Mountain." His words were laced with a sense of foreboding. "Since the monsters from the northern sea and the snowy mountain appear together, we call it hell on earth, even at Haben Castle." Raiden's words flowed smoothly. "It has a marvelous view, though, making it a great spectacle." Raon's eyes widened as he took in the breathtaking scenery, and he nodded in agreement. "It's definitely nice." Raiden's expression turned serious. "Then let's start the test before heading out to scout. We need to know roughly how good you are, right?" His eyes narrowed slightly, assessing Raon's capabilities. The tone was professional, with a hint of expectation. Raiden pointed to some footprints on the ground, his finger tracing the outline of the massive impressions. "What do you think this trace is?" he asked. Dorian's eyes widened as he took in the size of the footprints, his voice trembling with worry and fear. "Judging from the size, it must be a big monster. Isn't this from an ice troll?" Raon's brow furrowed in thought before he spoke up. "It doesn't seem to be a troll, at least." Dorian's face turned pale, and he looked shocked, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's not." Raon's explanation flowed smoothly. "A troll's footprints are similar to a human's, and they're bigger and deeper than this. Moreover, these footprints belong to an animal that walks on 4 feet. He paused for a moment, his eyes studying the tracks before concluding. "That implies that these footprints were made by a Kerry mountain goat." Raiden's gaze turned to Raon, his expression a mix of surprise and admiration. He thought to himself, did he really get it right immediately? Raiden's eyes lingered on Raon, assessing his abilities and wondering if this newcomer might be more capable than he initially thought. Raiden's eyes narrowed slightly as he asked Raon, "Then can you tell when those footprints were made?" Raon paused for a moment, his mind processing the details of the tracks. After a brief moment of thought, he replied, "Considering the fact that the ground under the footprint isn't that hard, they were likely made less than half a day ago. We should be able to catch it if we head west." Raiden pointed to the claw mark on the tree, his finger tracing the gash in the bark. "Then what does this look like to you?" he asked. Raon's eyes scanned the mark, examining it carefully before responding. "This was made by a dire wolf." His voice was confident, and his gaze lingered on the mark, as if he was ensuring his assessment was correct. Raon's fingers brushed against the claw mark as he continued. "Dire wolves mark their territories by leaving traces on boulders or trees with their strong, thick claws." His eyes seemed to cloud for a moment, and his voice took on a slightly somber tone. "However, this one must have died already." Raiden's face lit up with surprise and amazement as he asked, "How did you figure that out?" Raon's calm demeanor was a stark contrast to Raiden's astonishment, and he replied, "Dire wolves periodically return to the same place. This trace is old, implying that it's most likely dead already." Raiden's gaze lingered on Raon, his mind racing with amazement. "This kid, what's wrong with him?" he thought to himself. "How can he read all of that so smoothly?" Raiden's thoughts wandered back to past experiences with new recruits in the Haben scouting party. He recalled how they had to undergo a unique form of hazing, one that didn't involve physical punishment or verbal abuse. Instead, seasoned scouts would offer provocative advice, poking holes in the idea that book knowledge was enough to survive in the wilderness. They'd emphasize the unforgiving nature of the environment and the limitations of theoretical knowledge. Raiden's gaze lingered on Raon's calm and confident demeanor, and he couldn't help but think, how does he already know these things? As he considered the upcoming hazing, Raiden realized that his usual approach might not have the desired effect on Raon. The hazing won't work like this. Raiden's eyes locked onto Dorian, and a bold idea seemed to form in his mind. Dorian, sensing Raiden's gaze, felt a surge of worry, his expression turning cautious as he wondered what Raiden was thinking. Raiden's sudden shout pierced the air as he brandished a small branch, his eyes fixed intently on Dorian. "Hey, you, tell me what kind of trace this is." Dorian's eyes widened in surprise, and he stuttered, "Why am I getting dragged into this?" The unexpected turn of events left Dorian bewildered, and he exchanged a glance with Raon, who seemed unfazed by Raiden's outburst. Raiden's grip tightened around Dorian's head, his eyes blazing with a mix of amusement and challenge. "You little punk, you don't even know this," he taunted. Dorian's eyes darted to Raon, his face contorted in fear as he screamed, "Young master, please save me." Meanwhile, Raon seemed entirely unbothered by the commotion, walking away with a calm demeanor as he thought to himself, "Let's ignore Dorian and scout the surrounding area in the meantime." As Raon walked, his thoughts turned to utilizing the perception of the snow flower to gather information about their surroundings. If I use the perception of the snow flower, I should be able to figure out what's around here. Suddenly, a ghastly energy emanated from his sword. As Raon's hand grasped the hilt of the sword at his hip, he thought to himself, "The blade of Requiem is scouting on its own and is telling me the results through ghastly energy." Raon's thoughts drifted back to previous experiences with the blade of Requiem. "Now that I think about it, the same thing happened on the way here," he recalled. "It gathered the high-purity energy from the monsters I've defeated and kept sending it to me. I even gained a trait related to ghastly energy thanks to that." A sense of appreciation dawned on Raon's face as he realized the sword's intentions. "It's trying to help me by any means possible," he thought, a hint of admiration in his mental tone. "How praiseworthy." Wrath burst forth from behind Raon, his voice booming as he shouted, "You bastard, what are you doing right now?" Raon's eyes widened in surprise as he turned to face Wrath. Its expression was twisted in disapproval, his words laced with a mix of anger and concern. "The perception of the snow flower is clearly better. As the Kings of Essence's technique," Wrath continued. "Why are you using the ability of a cursed creature like that?" Raon's calm demeanor remained unwavering as he replied, "It's respectable how it is working so hard for my sake. There isn't really any reason to use your ability instead." Wrath's face ignited with anger, his features reddening as he struggled to contain his temper. Its eyes blazed with a mix of indignation and fury, clearly taken aback by Raon's nonchalant response. Wrath circled around Raon, his movements agitated as he explained, "The perception of the snow flower is just a glimpse of the Kings of Essence's power. The perception of the snow flower is clearly better than that parasite's ghastly energy." Raon's expression remained calm, his voice neutral as he asked, "How am I supposed to know if it's better or not?" Wrath's face turned red with rage as he shouted, "Obviously, because the King of Essence is the greatest demon king in Devildom." Raon's expression remained nonchalant, and he walked away, simply replying, "Yeah, sure." His casual tone and dismissal of Wrath's outburst only seemed to fuel its anger, who stood there, fuming at Raon's lack of reaction. Wrath's frustration boiled over as he ground his teeth, his voice laced with indignation. "Ugh, how dare you ignore the King of Essence? What arrogance!" Raon's expression remained calm, but his words shifted the focus to Wrath's ability. "More importantly, it's your ability, someone who is continuously looking for an opportunity to take over my body. Who knows what kind of side effects it's going to have?" Wrath's anger seemed to deflate, replaced by an uncomfortable silence as he became speechless. Wrath began to explain, his tone measured, "You don't need to worry about such a thing. The technique that King of Essence is about to teach you uses the coldness in your body." Raon's feet seemed to freeze in place, and he suddenly stopped and turned, his eyes wide with amazement as he looked at Wrath. Wrath flew over Raon's head, his movements swift and agitated, as he continued, "The King of Essence will personally teach you how to use the coldness which is incomparable better than an evil trick like that." Raon's face turned pale as he gazed at Wrath, his thoughts racing with a mixture of surprise and calculation. "This is an unexpected gain," he thought to himself, his mind whirling with the implications of Wrath's words. Raon spotted a nearby rock and sat down on it, crossing his legs in a calm, meditative posture. Wrath hovered nearby, his expression serious as he continued to explain, "This technique is called Glacier. It should be impossible to even learn it for an ordinary human." Wrath's tone took on a hint of superiority. "Only those possessing high-purity coldness can learn this technique." Wrath's expression turned stern as he continued, "With your feeble talent, you'll need a significant amount of effort and time to learn it." His words were laced with a hint of skepticism. Wrath's tone softened slightly as he advised, "Calm your mind." His voice took on a somewhat patronizing tone, as if guiding a novice who needed careful direction. Wrath's guidance continued, "You need to connect the coldness inside you to the coldness covering this land." Raon's eyes closed, and he began to focus, slowly starting to sense the coldness within himself. His breathing slowed, and his body relaxed, as he attempted to tap into the cold energy coursing through his veins. Wrath's voice guided Raon, "Maintain that state, and look at the King of Essence's coldness. How does it look?" As Raon focused on the King of Essence's energy, Raon's eyes remained closed, his expression serene, as he replied, "It looks like your coldness is merged with the snow on the ground." As the King of Essence's energy began to merge with the snow, Wrath explained, "That's just how it looks on the surface, it's not about snow and coldness." His tone took on a deeper understanding. Coldness is connected to the coldness. Wrath's guidance continued, "The important thing is to harmonize your coldness with the coldness dwelling in this land." Raon's eyes opened, and he gazed at Wrath with a thoughtful expression. To himself, he thought, "This is difficult. I've never even thought about connecting coldness to coldness." He seemed to be acknowledging the challenge ahead, thinking to himself, "It does indeed look difficult to learn." His expression conveyed a mix of determination and doubt, as he faced the prospect of mastering the glacier technique. The important thing is to imagine them being connected instead of connecting them yourself. Raon closed his eyes once more, sinking into a meditative state as Wrath's words resonated within him. Wrath's voice wove a hypnotic spell. "Once you manage to do it, you'll be able to feel even the faraway scenery as if it were right in front of you. All of the coldness on this land will serve as your eyes, ears, and skin." As Raon focused, his senses began to blur, and he started to feel a sense of unity with his surroundings. He began to fall into his surroundings as one, his consciousness merging with the cold energy that permeated the land. As Raon merged with the surrounding coldness, his perception shifted, and he thought to himself, "The world is slowing down." Time seemed to stretch and compress, and the world around him took on a dreamlike quality. As Raon opened his eyes, understanding dawned on him. "No, I'm the one who is becoming slower." He attempted to move his legs forward, but his body felt heavy, as if rooted to the spot. Raon's thoughts trailed off with a hesitant but. Raon's thoughts continued, "My senses are getting sharper to a frightening extent." The world around him seemed to be coming alive, and his senses were expanding, allowing him to perceive details he had never noticed before. As Raon probed his surroundings, his expanded senses revealed a vivid scene. Dorian was being hazed by scout leader Raiden. Meanwhile, a dire wolf had successfully hunted its prey, and Raon could see the entire scene unfolding with crystal clarity. Raon's thoughts continued, "Instead of recognizing their presence, I can even tell what they're doing." He was amazed by the depth of information he was receiving, as if his senses had become omniscient. Raon's mind reeled, "This is absurd." Raon's thoughts continued, "But the range is too short, and I can't maintain it for long. It must be because this is my first time." Suddenly, an ominous aura began to move behind Raon, making him speechless. As he turned to look at it, Raon's eyes narrowed, and he muttered, "This presence." Raon sprinted towards Dorian and Raiden, his urgency palpable. "Scout leader Raiden," he shouted, his voice carrying across the landscape. Raiden turned to face Raon, a hint of curiosity in his expression. What's the matter, Raon?" he asked, his tone measured and inquiring. Dorian, still being taught a lesson, looked up at Raon with a mix of surprise and hope, his eyes asking silently if Raon had come to intervene. Raon's urgent warning cut through the air. "Shark moles are coming this way from underground, right now." Raiden's expression changed from curiosity to alarm as he recalled the fearsome creatures. "Shark moles are coming." Raiden began to reassure the group. "Ocean monsters like shark moles wouldn't approach us here. This is the territory of Stalin Mountain's monsters. The characteristic tremor caused by their movement hasn't happened either." But Raon stood firm, his confidence unwavering. "It's true, they're definitely heading this way." His conviction was clear, and his words carried a sense of certainty that commanded attention. Raiden's frustration boiled over as he began to say, "What nonsense are you?" But before he could complete his sentence, a massive explosion erupted behind him, sending shockwaves through the air. The ground shook beneath their feet, and Raiden's words were lost in the deafening roar. Raiden and Dorian turned to face the source of the sound, their eyes widening in shock as they took in the sight. "What the hell?" they thought to themselves, stunned by what they saw. The explosion had seemingly torn open the earth, and shark moles were bursting forth from the ground, their razor-sharp teeth and glowing eyes visible in the chaos. The creatures twisted, shark-like bodies were perfectly adapted for underground hunting, and they seemed to be pouring out of the ground in a nightmarish tide. Raiden's mind reeled as he thought, "Shark moles really came all the way here." The sheer impossibility of it all struck him, and for a moment, he was paralyzed by the unexpected turn of events. Friends, the chapter ends here. To everyone watching, thank you for joining us on this adventure. If you're eager to find out what happens next, please do comment below, asking for more chapters. Don't forget to show your support by liking and subscribing. Until next time, stay tuned.